welcome back, loony listeners. As much as I wish this was Into the Night, a Dino Night podcast, this is in fact episode 39 of Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Connor.
And I'm your other host, Moon Fang. And this episode, we've got our Infinity War special in the lead up to the movie coming out very soon. We've got a couple of bits of news, but mainly it's all about Infinity War in the comics and how Moon Knight factors into that. So, we'll be looking at Mark Spector Moon Knight issues 41 to 44, as well as issue 57, which covers his tie-in for the Infinity Crusade. So, grab your issues, sit back, relax, and get your Khonshu on.
Thank you for joining us once again here. We are glad to be back in the recording studio in the multiverse, but here we are in Marvel Comics. Technically, our universe has a number.
Yes.
I don't remember the number because I do not enough research. Yeah, we're glad to have you. We have an Infinity War special. We're covering some 90s issues. My first foray into Mark Spector Moon Knight. We've got news. We've got some news for ourselves coming up too, alongside our reviews for where we'll be popping up over the place. But first of all, most of all, how you doing, Ray?
Hey, Connor. Yeah, doing well. I'm quite excited about this. Another something slightly different for ITK. We're looking at the Infinity War special, and as we mentioned, how that ties into Moon Knight. So yeah, I actually fear for you, Connor. I'm not sure how you've absorbed this foray into the 90s Moon Knight comic world. We'll get into it shortly, but it's certainly very, very different, and it's an acquired taste, I think.
Admittedly, I'm not sure how you guys survived the 90s, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Oh look, it's got some good points. It's got some good points. I mean, look, we'll get into it. You know, Mooney's armor and his weapons were pretty cool, I thought. Yeah, but there are just other things. Oh, I guess you have to tip your hat off to Terry Kavanagh, who was the writer, just totally out there. I don't know what he was on, but yeah, it was certainly a bumpy ride.
Yeah, God. He sure does like talking about his adamantium stuff. But before we hit the past, I don't want to say, what have you been reading this week, Ray? And how excited are you for the Infinity War movie?
Well, yeah. It is just around the corner. I cannot wait. Oh my gosh, I'm on my I'm on a 5-day break. So my last day of my mini holiday is when Infinity War comes out. So super excited at that. Catching the 140 session, I believe. So Eve and I will grab a bit of lunch. She's happy to come along as well. And then we'll be seeing it. But I will remain tight-lipped because I do respect other fans out there, and no spoilers. The worst thing can happen is that if you do spoil something for someone else who has been waiting so long to watch it, like ourselves. So so just looking forward to that. As for what I'm reading, I haven't been reading a lot of the current runs, actually. I just really caught up on these Mark Spector Moon Knight issues for this episode, which was pretty cool. I caught up on Mark Spector Moon Knight issue 25 as I popped into hell, actually, to meet the boys from Inner Demons, and I gave my thoughts on that. So that was a crossover with Ghost Rider, which was pretty fun. Other than that, I've still been reading a lot of classic stuff, like what have I been reading? Quasar, actually, Quasar Classic. So that's been a lot of fun to read, and I've cracked open the Epic Collection for Masters of Kung Fu, getting my hit of Shang-Chi goodness. So that's been pretty fun. How about yourself? What sort of stuff have you been reading lately, Connor?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a big one. We had 5 issues this ep, and then we caught reading stuff. I read that. I also read the issue 25, but we got the More Damnation stuff coming up. We got Iron Fist.
Have you read that?
Was it this week? It was super great. It's really sad. It's the end of
Ed Brisson's. Yeah, I know, that's a shame.
Run. But it's just been such a great one, such a highlight for Iron Fist, who has some super high tier runs, and then everything's kind of not as well mentioned. But I think this is really up to the caliber of, say, Immortal Mortal Iron Fist back in.
And Brisson was pretty sad about it as well. I saw a tweet from him saying how I guess how sad he was to finish off the last issue of it and to no longer write Iron Fist. So it has been an awesome run. Any classic reads beside the Mark Spector stuff?
Ooh, actually, I haven't gone too much back at all. I don't think I've actually been
yes.
up on the new stuff. I was reading Fence from Boom Studios, which is like a kind of cool YA sports comic take on sports model, which is super thrilling. Got a couple of graphic novels out from Image.
Is that Fence? Is that a mini-series or is that ongoing? Oh, cool.
It's ongoing. I believe it was intended for a mini series, but then it just got super popular. I'm just pulling up my back to see what's going on. But yeah, I keep meaning every week. It's a shame that I don't know where to have it sitting there. It stares at me, but I've got a Jason Aaron's Ghost.
You have got to look.
And I just heard someone compare it today on another podcast, Living Between Wednesday, to the greater Donny Cates Thanos run in the way it handles the darkness and the humor, which is that current Thanos mini-series was
that would be
awesome.
Good. Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't.
So, every time.
I haven't read Thanos, but I've read the Jason Aaron Ghost Rider, and if Thanos is like that at Jason Aaron Ghost Rider, then that is a big, big credit to it. So you're in for something good then, Connor. I think.
Yeah. So every week, you've probably heard me say that I'm going to read it and just never do, but I'll eventually get there.
Yeah, I've still got it. I've still got Your Underwater Welder, which I really want to read as well. And Jeff Lemire, and it actually reminds me, I want to give a quick shout out now. I mean, I know we have Spectacle coming on later, but a quick shout out now to begin with to Joel the Looney from a Facebook group. Yeah, he managed to interview Jeff Lemire at a recent comic book convention, and he's transcribed the interview. And he posted up the link on our Facebook group. So thank you so much, Joel. And it was have you read it, Connor? It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was such a really insightful interview, and just one from a real position as a fan. Joel does a great hand at both like an interview and he's a great writer as well. But this was just as much a super big fan of his work, sitting down and just asking all his burning questions. So it's a must read, I'd say, considering Lemire's bloody legacy on Moon Knight. And just
for sure. Anyone who is a keen comic book reader, not necessarily just Lemire, it is a really good interview to read. What I found interesting was there's that ongoing motif that Lemire has in all his books, apparently, that he wasn't too aware of, but it was he was aware of it. It was the whole underwater theme. You have it running a lot in he used it in Essex County. Just this whole idea of being underwater, and obviously the underwater welder, but also he mentions in Royal City as well. You'll see that there are some characters that go underwater. It's just a really interesting concept, and I like the fact that Lemire has introduced it into most of his work. We didn't see it with Moon Knight, I thought, but maybe it's more for his own creator-owned stuff, I think. But yeah, quite.
Oh, for sure. And which, if you've only ever followed his legacy as a big 2 writer, you owe it to yourself to check out. Oh, so much of his stuff. You got Underwater Welder, Essex County, Lost Dogs,
Descenders finished, right? Did that finish?
Oh, just about. I believe it's in the
Final Arc. Okay, I haven't read any of that, but that's been getting a lot of praise as well. There's plenty of goodness there for Jeff and Lemire fans. But also, as Joel, check out Joel's interview. It's really cool.
Hell yeah! In that, I guess, could sort of be a segue into some news.
Sort of, yeah. Sort of. True. Well, it's all kind of journalistic, isn't it? Kind of. So we've only got a couple of bits of news here, but they are juicy bits of news. So I'd say, do you want to grab the first one, Connor, then?
Just dropped as of some time recently. we have issue 194 kicking off basically the next part after Crazy Runs in the Family. Starting off basically a series of one-shot. Moon Knight 194 got its preview pages for the true origin of MARC SPECTOR. So that's it's a couple of pages preview from Adventures in Poor Taste. We've posted up on the Facebook group. But we'll also leave it in the show notes as well. Or maybe it'll just be you just want to wait it out. But I just want to say, Ty Templeton's art.
Oh, well, I haven't checked it out, but I totally have faith in you there, Connor, and I can't wait to hang out until Wednesday. I'd say, geez, Wednesday's going to be big, isn't it? We've got Infinity War, and then we've got a Mooney issue coming out. We'll also put a spoiler thread as usual in our Facebook group, so be sure to have a look out for that. And if you want to start discussing, if you had a little read of the preview, and before it kind of comes out, we'll start kind of getting in some feedback from loonies who want to leave their thoughts on it. It should be good. It's got the as you say, it surprised me. You reminded me again, Connor, of it being there's a series of one-shots for this, so this should be quite interesting. Harking back to the Ellis days, possibly, with his 6-issue run, which I found was pretty cool. There's nothing wrong with one-shots; they actually work quite well, and there's not so much, I guess, obligation. If you are a casual reader of Moon Knight or want to pick up to see how Moon Knight is, it's a perfect way to drop in, I think.
Oh, totally, and I think that's why Ellis was so successful in getting new readers. And
on top of that as well, the only other bit of news we have comes from Newsarama. The July solicitations were released for Marvel Comics, and in it, of course, amongst a plethora of other comic book issues, one of which were the multiple issues of the Hunt for Wolverine, which seems to be the big thing in Marvel coming up. We've got 197 of Moon Knight, and they released some, I'm assuming it's cover art again from Becky Cloonan, and it looks like a good one there, Connor. It's almost, I think I mentioned just to you before we started the podcast, it's almost like John the Baptist-esque, of his head on a platter. And it's titled A Meal for Malevolent Madmen. And it goes on to say in a bullet form, a group of psychotic killers gather for a feast, but there's more on the menu than delectable dishes. Who is the mysterious figure who has gathered these villains, and to what end? Will Moon Knight make it in time to dish out their just desserts, or will he become the main course? I just love this. Really kind of, I don't know what you call it, on the nose, marketing here. It was a little, with Moon Knight, his head on a platter. They've got all the cliches coming out. Dish out just desserts and becoming the main course. I love it. But it looks good. There's very little to go on here, Connor. But I don't know. It's still interesting for you.
Yeah, and if you think this sounds pretty cross-like, this does actually mark the return of Jason Burrows since the last issue of Crazy Runs in the Family. Takes a break from 193 all the way up to 197. So he's back.
Good pickup. So are we to believe then maybe the Ty Templetons are all the one-shots? So that would be a good 4, 5, 6, 3 of them. There'll be 3 one-shots. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And Ty Templeton isn't doing all of them, I believe. It's a rotating...
Right. Oh, exciting. Do you remember who the other ones were then? I can't remember from the other solicitations.
I will just...
That will be pretty...
Now. I don't remember it all, actually. It was a pretty...
Okay.
Pretty decent
That'd be pretty interesting. I mean, always good to have Jason Burrows back. As we've discussed since the beginning of the Legacy issues, Jason Burrows has been one of the more popular artists, I guess, for Moon Knight. He's been very, very consistent indeed. But yeah, it'd be good to have just, a smattering of other, one-off artists.
It's actually only one more after Ty Templeton. The next 2 issues are done by artist
Paul Davison. Okay. All right.
I have
true. Let me just... Davidson, was it? Or Davison? Or Davidson?
Yes.
Comic artist. Sorry, this is real time. Looney's real time investigations here.
We're rolling, as always.
He seems to be tied to Civil War 2, choosing sides. He must have done something in there. And he's done X-Men Legacy, Legion. He's probably been in there somewhere. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, this is just... I'm just quickly looking through. Yeah, okay. Well, he's got some chops. Should be pretty fun to see those coming issues. But yes, of course, we have 194 coming up, which... let's see what that unfurls for us, and I believe, obviously it's to do with Mark's childhood and another look at his origin, which should be pretty good. But yeah, those were the news items, I guess, for this week, Connor. Not too much, but both of them quite potent, I think.
Oh yeah, just we got the big one next week. New issues always keeping us going, but we do have another 5 issues of reviews for you here, so hope we don't leave you too.
No, for sure. And I don't know, shall we get into it? Infinity War special?
Yeah, I think so. I think Infinity War in special in the loosest term to the upcoming film. But
let's get into that. And I haven't figured out a intro music for it yet, but cue intro music now. Okay, yes, in the Infinity War special from Into the Night. All to do with Moon Knight, though, so, we are sticking to our boy here. So, so this is a very different kind of format than what you're probably used to, Loonies. Since we've got a lot of comics here, 5 comics to review, we're gonna do it kind of as an overview for all of them. So basically, we're just going to quickly go through the main Infinity events in the 90s, which basically what the MCU Infinity War is based on. But then we'll go through also how Moon Knight factors into these Infinity events. And there were 3 of them, basically. 1991 started it all with Jim Starlin, and that kicked it off with Infinity Gauntlet, which a lot of people, I'm sure, are familiar with, and which the MCU movie Infinity War is largely based upon. Then in 1992, off the back of that success, they released a sequel, Infinity War. And in 1993, they went for a third bite at the cherry, so it must have been going well, and they had another event called Infinity Crusade. So, see this as a crash course, Loonies, if you aren't familiar with Infinity events and want to know how Mooney is involved in it. We'll go through Infinity Gauntlet in 1991, and as a roundabout, a very informal kind of bare bones to it, Infinity Gauntlet basically is what you see, or what I'm assuming we'll see in Infinity War the movie. Thanos is looking for the Infinity Gems, as they were known back then. They've later been turned into stones, but they were actually gems before. And he basically goes around and collects it to create his Infinity Gauntlet. What he really wants to do is he wants to impress Death. So the embodiment of Death. Thanos is obsessed with Death. So the only way that he can impress her, he reckons, is that if he can obliterate half the population in the entire universe. And the only way to do that, and the only thing powerful enough to do that, is with the Infinity Gauntlet. And anyway, he does get it eventually, and he does it. He obliterates half the population. So half of the superheroes, as we know it, were obliterated. And I believe Moon Knight was part of that as well. So so he doesn't really get much of a feature in the Infinity Gauntlet, but the other half of the heroes do their thing, and I'm sure it's going to be kind of emulated in the movie. They take on Thanos, as it is, good versus evil, and Thanos kind of loses in the end. But yeah, that's how it. And the stones are, or the gems are, I think, given to Adam Warlock. and I can't remember if he disperses them or not, or he holds on to them, but Adam Warlock plays a big part in this. So that was Infinity Gauntlet. Connor, would you like to maybe summarize Infinity War the following year?
All right, Infinity War the following year. Marvel's not great choices of looking for sequels where they don't belong. Infinity War has Adam Warlock getting the Infinity Gauntlet this time and basically becoming sort of a totally logical being. So he removes his emotions, his good and his bad, and they become two separate beings, with his evil version becoming the Magus, the Magus, the Magus, and the good side becoming the Goddess, and the Magus, if you will, gets the cosmic cubes. And basically incapacitated Eternity, that incredibly powerful being, and creates a whole nother evil interdimensional realm and an army of doppelgangers to stop Earth superheroes so he can control the universe. But of course, the heroes stop him, but not before they find out that the Living Tribunal does not want the Infinity Gauntlet to be used, so they have to first get Eternity out of incapacitation and get the Infinity Gauntlet to stop the doppelganger. So basically a bunch of humans stay on Earth to defend a bunch of different things. Franklin Richards is one of them, and a bunch of others, the Fantastic Four, all that, go into space to fight the Magus. And Mooney is one of our boys back on Earth fighting doppelgangers to save the lives of Earth, and kind of having a kind of unimportant role in the whole grand scheme, because the heroes on Earth just kind of fight the doppelgangers, and people in space save them, and then it ends. But Moon does get a bit of a time to shine.
He gets to partake in a lot of battles. May not be the war, but he gets to get really into there with the battles with the doppelgangers. Yeah. And I don't know, Connor, we can do this joint thing in 1993 to cap off the trilogy, Infinity Crusade. So Infinity Crusade, it's more, I think, to do with the Goddess, so the good aspect of Adam Warlock, and less so the Magus. But basically, from what I have read, and this is, out of the three, this is the one that I'm least familiar with. The Goddess decides to create an army, and she brainwashes a lot of the heroes. So the heroes and heroines who were more susceptible to being brainwashed. So if they had a near-death experience, or there were some other criteria, religious, exactly,
bunch of other things that maybe
then so she wanted to have this army. It's a bit sketchy with all this, actually, Connor. There was a cosmic egg actually involved, which was formed once you collected all the cosmic cubes. Is that correct? Not too.
Yes, sir. I believe she stole the cosmic cubes at the end of Infinity War.
The Grand Wishes. That's right. And actually, Professor X had a big role in this as well. He actually. He took one for the team, but he, with his telepathic abilities, as well as Adam Warlock and Thanos, I think the three of them managed to defeat the Goddess, who, I don't know, she's probably a little overambitious, and I think that's why they kind of all sided up against her.
She basically wants to use the egg to rid the universe of evil, but
that's right.
What's that going to do? She's going to fuck up the universe, and then she wants to remove all sentient life because that'll stop all evil.
It's kind of like Ultron, isn't it? You know, the best way to cure something is to just get rid of everything, which is not entirely, good for the better of it. So anyway, and Moon Knight's role in this. It's really weird. We'll get into it, but there's an overlapping arc here with the Knights Templar and Bloodline. We actually see Frenchie. There's a big thing with Frenchie here. We actually find Frenchie's not your just average merc. He's now got something within him that makes him a bit more than just a normal merc. Yeah, and there's Seth Phalkon, who's it kind of boggles my mind. But anyway, we'll factor that into, I guess, when we talk about issue 57. Yeah, Connor. So I guess the difference between the Infinity War movie and the Infinity War in comics, as I mentioned, I believe the Infinity War movie will be largely based on the Infinity Gauntlet. And as you mentioned, Connor, Infinity War in the comics was, for want of a better term, it was just basically fighting your evil half, right? It was all about doppelgangers, which was a great way. It was a great way for Marvel to kind of, I don't know, it was easy. Like, all you got to do is just make up some other evil half. And actually, what I thought with Moon Knight, he actually, his evil half, which was Moonshade, kind of shone a bit, I thought. It was quite an ambitious doppelganger. So normally the doppelgangers were kind of one-dimensional. They were basically like for like in ability and all that, but they were just evil. Moonshade, I thought, had a bit of evil genius about him, I thought. What did you think about the whole... We'll get into it, but what did you think about the whole Moonshade and his plot?
Oh yeah, Moonshade was totally the best part, and the issue 42 was definitely the best part of the event, where it deals with his doppelganger. But I think, Moon Knight kind of gets a bigger role than you'd expect, I suppose the 90s really incentivized all the heroes meeting up. So there's a lot of crossovers among Spectre, Moon Knight, and he plays a pretty big part here. He saves Franklin, he takes down a lot of doppelgangers, and Moonshade is super ambitious. It's supposed to reflect the fact that Moon Knight's still a bit rogue, is with the Avengers, but he goes off and does his own thing, like in the previous issues, taking down Doctor Doom when that's illegal to do so in these foreign countries.
It's very much highlighted, wasn't it, how much of a rogue he still is. Like, as you mentioned, him tackling on Doctor Doom, he gets in Captain America's bad books. And so a lot of the Avengers, I think, have an opinion of Moon Knight. And it's only because of this cosmic event that he's been called in as a reserve Avenger. But his fellow colleagues are still a bit wary of him because of his, I guess, his hidden agendas. It's even also, as well as you mentioned, the Fantastic Four. It's only because Alicia Masters tells the Fantastic Four that he's actually saved Franklin that they actually start to listen to him. Like, the Thing just wants to clobber him, and Reed Richards doesn't want anything to do with him because of what he did with Doctor Doom. And because also, as well, let's not forget, Moon Knight did trick Reed Richards into helping him get to Doom. So Reed feels a bit, obviously, betrayed by Moon Knight. And, of course, you'd rightly say you wouldn't be too trusting of someone that kind of has kind of dodged you before. So basically, in Infinity Gauntlet, he had hardly any role. Infinity War, as we just mentioned, he's got a pretty good story arc in that. And Infinity Crusade, Connor, Moon Knight's role in that, I'm not sure overall. I don't know if he had a major factor in the Goddess and the eventual events that happened with Thanos and Warlock, but he does get a bit of a. Actually, I think in Infinity Crusade, it's more to do with his own secondary plot, right? It's more to do with the Shadowkeep and his legacy and his... I think it's more to do with that. But I don't want to say too much more for Crusade because I really am still a bit boggled by that. All right, shall we get into... let's get into Mark Spector issues 41 to 44, and let's have a look at... some of the scenarios with Moon Knight, as we've already discussed some of them. So generally, where we jump in with issue 41 is that there are a whole bunch of heroes, Avengers and mutants, in Four Freedoms Plaza at the Fantastic Four's abode, and then there's an infiltration of doppelgangers, and then it's all on, So the heroes fight each other, then the heroes fight doppelgangers. And we get to see, which I think is pretty cool, Connor, Moon Knight getting to fight a lot of other Marvel characters that you don't usually see him fight, So we get him tackling the likes of Psylocke, which is actually very important, and Gambit. So he tackles some of the mutants, but he holds his own pretty well against a lot of these high-powered heroes.
Yeah, so that first issue is kind of like there's a doppelganger in the mist. Reed and Tony both sort of doppelgangers trick them into all fighting each other. Mutant against Avenger. Moon Knight gets caught in the middle.
Sorry, I'm about to say I love caught in the middle when you say I love him when he gets surrounded by the Hulk, Strong Guy, and the Thing. So yeah, you can't get any more in trouble than that, I think.
Yeah, and he's complaining about not trying to pick sides when Psylocke and Storm's picking on it, and then Reed tries to blow up a gamma bomb, and he's kind of after that he's kind of stuck behind where all rest of the heroes leave him behind to go save space and reality.
As a little detail though, what I found interesting, and it comes up every now and again as well, is that it seems that Moon Knight is maybe one of the few heroes that is aware that Daredevil may have superhuman abilities, because I think the stock standard is like around this time was that people just thought Daredevil was, like a ninja, like a highly proficient and athlete. Yeah, no one knew that he was.
Really?
A, no one knew that he was blind, and B, no one knew that he actually had powers. But Moon Knight, it seems that he catches on, and he's quite observant. So, like for instance, when he sees Daredevil's doppelganger later on, he notices that the doppelganger has these extrasensory powers, and he puts two and two together and he goes, "Yeah, it's what I suspected before. I reckon Daredevil's got some powers." Yeah, so it kind of shows how savvy Moon Knight is as well.
Yeah, and then once he's behind there, he actually kind of gets a nice bit of spotlight here with we see his own doppelganger doing his own thing, splitting from the pack, representative of Moon Knight, but then he literally saves one of the most powerful beings in the universe, which is, a kind of role I guess would have been unheard of in the 80s if he was ever in an event back then, or even the first Infinity Gauntlet.
No, not at all. No. And again, he's taking on he's taking on Franklin Richards' doppelganger, which is a very powerful doppelganger in his own right. And he's taking on his own doppelganger, who later becomes Moonshade. So he does very well here. He's actually he hasn't got any backup. Alicia Masters is she's not a superhero, and Franklin is asleep, and so they chuck on this siphon on Franklin's head, and the idea was to drain his life force. They don't get all of it, but what was interesting here is that the Moon Knight doppelganger then betrays the Franklin Richards doppelganger for his own needs. So this was what I was mentioning about how Moon Knight's doppelganger's got more of an agenda, and is a bit more fleshed out than the other usual doppelgangers, and and he's taken on the power for himself.
Yeah, and then that sort of leads him to, why not conquer every other type of Moon Knight, become the most powerful Moon Knight while everyone else is distracted saving the rest of reality?
Not a bad idea at all. And I wonder actually how... Yeah, there's a bit of a grey area. So when he absorbs Franklin Richards, he doesn't absorb all his life force, but he gets a lot of it. And I wonder how he come up with this plan of trying to absorb all the Moon Knight entities from all over the multiverse. I'm not sure how that factors into Franklin's own power. Was there a correlation? I mean, Franklin Richards had this massive power, right? But it was more like a dream. I don't know what he could... Oh, maybe that's it. He had this... he had some sort of connection with realities, and maybe that's where Moonshade... Yeah.
Yeah, he's a super... Yeah, he's like a... I think he's omnipotent. Like, I'm not quite totally caught up. I can't remember from the Hickman run, but I remember that he's super powerful. He's he's the one restoring reality after Secret Wars fucked it all up. In, the current run. So I think here he was doing all this in his sleep, and Moonshine had that sci-fi terrible pun. That is so basically he almost takes a portion of his power and absorbs it into himself to just hop across reality.
And so he absorbs a lot of it to become Moon Shade, the doppelganger. Well, he kind of calls himself that after he's absorbed some. But we know since he hasn't absorbed all of Franklin's energies, he isn't able to absorb all the Moon Knights in all the multiverses. So what we get, as we get into the next issue, is that we get a little look into other realities of Moon Knights, which I thought was really fun, actually, and it was a really good way to introduce it.
Yeah. I mean, we've never seen anything tackled like this before, but
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Like, it's the only part. I think it's take that. Well, I think issue 44 was pretty good, but this is the only issue.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tongue in cheek, isn't there, as well? So the first Moon Knight alternate, in another reality we see is Dark Moon, and he's already kind of got like a Batman kind of look to him. But we even later on we see even other ones that are closer to Batman. But yeah, Dark Moon is the first Moon Knight from another reality that we see, and Moonshade pretty much, I think he ends up absorbing him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so he calls them meals, and unfortunately, Dark Moon isn't able to survive that one, and then he just keeps on jumping realities, and for some reason he takes Moon Knight with him. I don't know why. Wouldn't you just?
He says he's basically like he's the strongest, like, and most determined, so hardest to eat, basically, and he calls him the worst tasting, so he says he's going to save him for last because he has the adamantium armor.
And that's interesting as well. Apparently it's the adamantium which defines this Moon Knight apart from the other ones in all the other realities, and it's the one that actually hurts Moonshade. So adamantium has a bit of a role in this.
If you were to play a drinking game with a strong enough alcoholic content, if you did a shot every time Moon Knight talked about how cool his adamantium gear is, you could probably get a bit drunk. He really likes mentioning his adamantium suit or his truncheon.
I like it. And look, I don't want to lead people down the wrong path and obviously drink responsibly. But Connor, I think that's an awesome idea. I've always had that idea for the show, and I wanted to call it "Let's Get Sheet Faced," but yeah,
there was when we first started this podcast. Someone made a
there's Khonshu. There's a cocktail. That's right. It's available online. We're gonna have to sift through the early. Yeah, of course.
Young to drink, so still doing nothing 70 years on.
Exactly. But, and drink responsibly, please. But that's a great idea, Connor. A drinking game about adamantium references. I reckon you will be under the table before you know it, in the 90s at least. But so anyway, they go to another reality, and again we see a Moon Fang, which seems to be more like he's pretty cool, actually. I think he'd be my favourite, only because he's, dark, and he seems to be vampiric, I think, almost.
Yeah.
Big vampire. But he, does he get absorbed, or he manages to dodge that? Oh, I think he did get absorbed, didn't he? Oh, he dies. Okay, yeah, right. It's a bit obscure here. So what happens? He buries Moonshade, but then somehow Moonshade comes up and absorbs him. Well, anyway, so we're in the 90s here, so there's no need to explain anything. Then they shift again to another reality, which is pretty cool. It's like a holy war.
Yeah, space holy war.
And there's two here. There's Crescent Moon, so she's the Moon Knight kind of version, and there's another. It's almost like a bat guy here. So again, is this like another little dig at Moon Knight and Batman? There seems to be a lot of references.
I don't know. There's a lot of references to other things. I don't know all the others except for this one, and I think there's probably some big cartoon like gargoyles or some anime.
Yeah, I mean, like, is there any anime or manga that you can? No, okay.
Not that I'm picking up. That the villainous bat-looking guy. He seems familiar. Maybe this.
I don't know. Yeah, he reminds me of Man Bat from DC, but that's only because he's got a bat face. But anyway, that's Anyway, Crescent Moon, she doesn't last too long. Well, actually, she really suffers here. Moonshade gets his tentacles all over her, and he sucks the life out of her. So she doesn't really make it. She's like a husk at the end, isn't she? She's a.
Oh yeah.
And then I think, Connor, this is probably your favourite page.
Oh, it's the best page. So first you gotta spirit her mom.
Yes, that's right.
Will Eisner's the spirit there. Then you've got a space ghost reference.
Very cool.
A moon ghost. And then you got Dino Knight, a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex that Moon Knight tries to save by giving him a big hug, but he dies. And that Dino Knight was the last straw, Moon Knight thinks. That's the one that hit him the hardest.
Yeah, and Dino Knight he's got his own gun holster and everything. It would have been really cool to see.
He's got short arms.
That's But that was pretty fun, I thought. And actually, it doesn't stop there. Then we find he's underwater, and we have Moon Maid, so kind of like a Moon Knight mermaid. Yeah. So he's in Atlanhattan police. So he's in some version of Manhattan, but it's underwater. Not Atlantis, but it's another version of.
Probably one where Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the world.
And I think Moon Maid, she buys it. She doesn't make it. And Moonshade continues on his way. And then we get the real, I reckon, the closest thing to Batman and Robin. It's right on the nose. Well, exactly, Adam West Batman and Burt Ward. So we have Moon Boy and we have Moon Man. And yeah, the way they speak, it was really funny. I thought it was typical 60s Adam West. And they're in Cosmopolis. So it looks very fun. Look, there's just giant, gimmicks like Acme pencils. They got playing cards. It's all weird. I don't know what, as I said, I don't know what Terry Kavanagh was on, but he's really pulled out the goods here. So anyway, Moon Man is really struggling. And I think, does he buy it as well? He bites the dust.
He bites the dust.
Moon Boy survives. Yep. Oh, he looks disgusting though, doesn't he? Moon Boy's got all these craters on his costume. It looks like it looks like I don't know, scars or something. But yeah, Moon Man is not able to save himself. And in this, to end this issue, we have Moon Knight using the adamantium. So go have your shot of your desired drink or beverage, and he decides to use a charged up conductive charge in his truncheon to blow up Moonshade from within. But when he does that, we're left in that issue with him in nowhere. Basically, he's blown up the whole reality as well. So quite exciting stuff. And I guess as we get into issue 43, that little reveal at the end doesn't last long because he finds himself transported back to, I guess, his own reality, and then we get more of a battle with all the other doppelgangers and heroes, still in Four Freedoms Plaza.
Yeah, this next one's kind of just. Really just is fighting. Like there's nothing.
There's a bit more of a reveal, I guess, of the Shadowkeep. So,
outside of the event, and I have no idea what the fuck.
It's really weird. I think they decided it's Shadowkeep and the Shadow Cabinet. So MARC, SPECTOR, and Frenchie had this consortium, I guess, and they all had specialties. It was basically they were like a knowledge base for them. So you have Mercy here, who's a medical person, and she's like diagnosing his condition because, as loonies who are aware of the 90s events, after Moon Knight battles the Demo Goblin, he picks up this really weird disease, and his body is kind of deteriorating slowly. So under the armor actually is keeping him together, and he's slowly kind of deteriorating. So the Shadowkeep in this stage are used by Frenchie to try and figure out what they can do. Frenchie says, look, we've got to find the Hobgoblin. There was another thing there in Web of Spider-Man where the Hobgoblin and the Demo Goblin split up. So I think they want to just find the Hobgoblin to try to get some answers or something. But as you mentioned, Connor, it's mainly fighting. Some pretty cool fights here. So Moon Knight fights Beast and Black Knight, one of my favourites as well, which is pretty cool. Yep, sorry.
I think yeah. Ooh. Oh, I like.
Yeah.
Actually, of all things, a big Gambit fan. But yeah, there was just a lot of fun back and forth. There was some real 90s inclusion. You had Namorita, you had Venom.
The thing is, also Connor as well with Gambit, because remember a couple of issues back in 41, I think Psylocke actually uses her Psyblade on Moon Knight, and she gets a peek into his psyche, and he's got some defenses that he's been taught by one of the Shadowkeep members, Sigmund. But she says, oh yeah, that's all just that's easy stuff. I can navigate my way through that. But she actually delves really deep into his mind, and she finds something very kind of scary that like puts her off from telepathically connecting with Moon Knight. And she actually finds out that he's dying, and so she gives it. I don't know, for some reason she doesn't want to do it, so she gives it to Gambit. I know, yeah. Yeah, she just flicks it onto him, and she tells Gambit, "Look, you've got to tell him that he's dying." So Gambit's got a bit of a role as well. He's got to tell Moon Knight that he's dying, which is funny because I think he knows it already. So anyway, so I think the writers try to make it as a tension, he's got to tell him something that he doesn't know, but I think he does. Like when your body's like melting away, I think you're pretty clued in that you're not going to be around for much longer. But anyway, so and there's another thing he kind of with the Knights Templar.
Yes, so they're evil guys looking.
Well, they look like it, but what happens is that they want to get in touch with Frenchie. So the Knights Templar are the protectors of the bloodline, and this will come later on in Crusade, and it starts getting very convoluted. Anyway, the Knights Templar are protectors of the bloodline, and Frenchie actually happens to be part of that bloodline. So Frenchie has this weird ability. He can actually transform. I don't know if it's like the Hulk or something, or he can consciously transform into an 18th century ancestor of his. Which I can't remember the name. And apparently he's... Yeah.
Oh, that's what happened.
Yes, yeah. I can't remember his name. Remo or something, or something. He's got some French name. But, so he's a pirate or something. And so anyway, he can convert... He can change into this guy, and apparently that guy's, I don't know, super powered, or he's quite tough. So it's kind of like here's Jekyll and Hyde. He can do that. But so anyway, we get an introduction of the Knights Templar here, who do look sinister at the beginning, but they end up being the protectors of the bloodline. And if we're looking at more of the fights here, can we get a bit more of a Darkhawk here as well, which is pretty cool.
Nice, big 90s guy.
Yeah, me too. It's great.
Actually. So with Nova as well, who we see kind of get the show.
Nova, and one of my other favourites, Multiple Man, is there as well.
What an ugly costume.
Yeah.
He looks so much sexier in the French coat and the Peter David one. That is
I know. He's got that, he's got the big X on his head and stuff. Yeah, it's very much a lot the green and yellow that he gets later on. But we get Moon Knight fighting the doppelganger of Daredevil. And he does pretty well. So if you're to pit both of them together, you'd say Daredevil's probably the better fighter, but Moon Knight seems to be doing pretty well against him. Well, his doppelganger.
And Hellcat's here. And
Speedball. Speedball was big back. The New Warriors basically were big back then, so that's why the Namorita. Anyway, so Moon Knight gets surrounded. There's a bit more talk here as we flick through of the Shadowkeep and Frenchie. Basically, we've got to investigate. We want to bloody save MARC, which is a lot of words to say that. And then Frenchie reveals he looks at MARC's actually given him a code to, in the event of Moon Knight's death, to do this such and such. And Frenchie's just reminded that in case worst case scenario, that's what will happen. A little tear rolls off his cheek. And we get, again, as you say, it's just constant fighting, isn't it? Oh, and the big thing with this, 43, is that all of a sudden, bam, whammo, the doppelgangers kind of revert to their normal form. And
Yeah, it just gets
Yes.
solved off page.
But I
and
think
they're
that, and they've got the footnote here as well. So it says, for the story of Doctor Strange and the Silver Surfer's long distance intervention, see Infinity War 4. So I think it ties into with issue 4 of Infinity War. And I haven't got it on hand here, but I think Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer do something, and it basically conveniently disables all the doppelgangers. That's why you get the big sludge that they are. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that pretty much ends 43, with obviously Gambit saying, "Oh, you've got to hear me out," but he doesn't get it. Doesn't get to say anything. Yeah, so we finally get into issue 44 of Mark Spector Moon Knight,
which is a very loose.
Yeah,
crossover.
it is, isn't it? It is, because most of the stuff I think by now has been sorted. I mean, they're into Infinity War, and on the first page it's already referencing Infinity War 6. So I think most of the stuff has been kind of done. And I think most of this, isn't it, on the Knights Templar, but also on Mark Spector trying to find a way to cure himself with Reed Richards and Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so it's a...
Yeah.
Choking on a mint. Nearly died. You know what they say. Yeah, so this actually deals with the fact that Mark Spector is dying, and there seems to be some sort of...
Yeah, it's... Again, it all comes back to when he got infected by... the Hobgoblin, who was possessed himself by a demon, so the Demogoblin. Yeah, and the Fantastic Four make their way back to Earth after the events in Infinity War. So we're kind of tying up, I think, Infinity War, but they come back. They do a bit of cleanup in the Four Freedoms Plaza, so the Thing and the Human Torch kind of incinerate what's left of all the doppelgangers. And apparently when all that happened, all the heroes were returned to their original locations. So the Fantastic Four are surprised, or Reed Richards surprised, when they see Moon Knight still there. And he basically says, yeah, well, I was reverted back to wherever I was, but, you know, I made my way back over here now because I've got something that I hope you can help me with. And this is where we discuss that the Fantastic Four were showing, okay, Moon Knight's a bit of a rogue. Why should we help you? Why should we trust you? And this is where Alicia reveals that he did a very noble thing by saving Franklin Richards. So they decide, and then there's a bit of a recap of him doing his whole thing with Moonshade. And then he reveals, very disgusting, I thought, he takes off the glove.
God, yeah.
And his hands are like skeletal, but like his skin's like dripping from it, and he's almost got talons. And he takes off his chest, his vest or whatever, and he's not looking good at all. He's looking more like The Walking Dead than Mark Spector. Yeah, but Doctor Strange then somehow makes his way back. And it's really cool.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Just yep. Anyone call? And so and it's really cool here. I think it's because it's both science and magic to try and figure out what's happening to Moon Knight, and they both all do their what is it, prognoses, or they all kind of all study what's happening, and you see that there's this thing that is infecting Moon Knight, and it's like a demonic. I don't know what it is, like not even virus. It's like a fungus or parasite or something. And yeah, that's what's causing him to wither. So anyway, yeah, and so this is more so about that than the Infinity War itself. And it's Doctor Strange and Reed Richards trying to help him. And so they managed to, after a bit of a tantrum from Moon Knight, they managed to calm him down and try to figure out what to do. And this is there's a little short thing here, Connor, I thought as well on the digital that we got near to the end, page 20 of 22. Finally, in Mark Spector Moon Knight, or on this thing, we get a little bit of a connection here to Khonshu. So we see a bit of Mark's faith here, or Moon Knight's faith. And he kneels before Khonshu, and he's just kind of he's just asking for help, I think, because he's dying basically. He's not scared, he says, what does he say? Mark Spector's died before, so the concept of death itself doesn't really scare me, but the end of my life truly terrifies me. What do you make of that text there, Connor? That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit weird, but it seems he seems okay with dying by the looks of it. He's like, I'll get it. There'll be another one of me. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true as well. He said the trappings of Moon Knight can be passed on, so the avatar can outlive the man. But he says at the end though, but I'm not going to just lay down and take it. He said, I'm not dead yet, so bring it on, basically. And then we get a bit more of the Shadowkeep, all in holograms. Just deciding what they want to do, trying to help Mark. He's got he gives himself a time limit there. He's got 25 hours left. So what they want to do, I think they want to go and break in and they want to get the Hobgoblin. But there seems to be a bit of an obstacle at the end with something happening there with electricity and the jail, and that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah, kind of leads straight off into the next part. But it did have Doctor Strange doing his magic, which is cool because I love it when we see.
Yeah, and he has featured in Moon Knight before in the 1980 run as well. So that was cool.
Great issue, 32.
It's really cool to see them together. So any time for Doctor Strange is always a good one. So that pretty much ends the involvement of Moon Knight in Infinity War, and as you can see. In issue 44, there wasn't, as you said, Connor, as well, there wasn't too much to add in Infinity War. Everything was wrapped up, and the sense that Moon Knight is only, basically a street-level person, they decided to kind of focus more on his own problems and basically set up the next issues to come, which is fair enough. So I think, Connor, look, I don't know if we'll come back... Maybe we will come back and do a proper bare bones and all that of each and every one of these issues when we get round to it. But as for Crescent Dark ratings, if we're to lump this as 41 to 44, what would you give ratings for Moon Knight's involvement in Infinity War?
Ooh, that's tough. So let's kind of run it down to make this segment go for too long. I think 41's fine. I think it's probably a 3 out of 5. It's sort of it was like basic fun. It had the tie-in. It had Moon Knight versing his doppelganger Moonshade with the Franklin Richards stuff and giving him a purpose. So I thought that was strong. Then the next issue was really fun, and also 41 wasn't great for art, and then I thought 42 really blew me away. Such a great lineup. You had Claus Janson, you had Ty Templeton.
Was Ty Templeton in there? Right.
Yeah, I don't know which did which, but we had this rotation of artists. We had Kelly Jones, Tom Palmer, James Fry. There was so many greats in here, and the art just excels. So even that, I'd probably give a 3, a 3.75 out of being a fun, kind of inconsequential story and just really strong. And then the one after 43 is just really basic fighting. It's a real nothing issue with okay art. That's like a 2 out of 5.
Okay.
It's so perfectly okay that it doesn't matter the grand scheme of the universe. And then the issue after is probably a 3.25, let's say. It expands the next part of the story. It has some fun action. Doctor Strange does some cool things. Once again, not the greatest art, not one compared to 42. So, you round that all up, and you get a 3 out of 5. So this
okay. So 3 out of 5 in total. But I'm just putting you down for all the other ones as well, because as I mentioned, I'd like to catalogue all our marks. So we've got a 3, a 3.75, a 2, and a 3.25. And overall, round about, say, 3. So that's pretty cool. Look, similar, kind of, I think. I'd give the first one, I'd say about a 3 as well. Because, it didn't shine, but it was still quite readable. I thought. With 42, I'd go up to, I'd be crazy, and I'm just going to go up to 4. I just love it. It's crazy fun. Look, it is hard, as you mentioned, it's hard to compare. It's because I think we're comparing apples with oranges with stuff like, you look at the Lemire run and the more modern run, the Houston run, or the 80s run, and then you look at the 90s, because the 90s was a very special time. So in the scheme of things, and for the fun factor, and actually even for the fun of it looking back, I would give it a 4, because it was quite enjoyable, and the whole idea of seeing all those different Moonies and Moonshade was really cool, I thought. I would give 43. I actually enjoyed that a bit more than usual, so I'd give that a 3.5. Okay. I enjoyed that only because, again, I'm a sucker for mindless and senseless action, and there was a lot of it here. Basically, as Connor said, it was all just fighting, and it was broken up with the stuff with the Knights Templar and the Shadowkeep as well. So 43 was still readable in the sense it wasn't, you didn't get too lost in what the hell was going on, but there was enough dumb action to give me a 3.5. And for 44, I would bring that back down to probably a 3 as well. I did enjoy that because of seeing the Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange, and to get more of a sense of what the hell was happening with Moon Knight's body. And there's something reassuring, because it's slowly wasting away, right? But then when you get Reed Richards there and Doctor Strange, that, as Moon Knight, you're in good hands. So I kind of felt slightly comforted in the fact that they were back there, and the fact that there was some sort of validation for Moon Knight when Alicia mentions to the Fantastic Four that he actually did a heroic thing. So that was, big marks there for Mooney. And from that, I guess that would be, I'd say 3.5 overall. It's been pretty, nice. It was pretty good, and so readable, nothing shining or outstanding, but definitely an enjoyable read. So yeah, that would be it for the Infinity War tie-ins for Moon Knight. Now, Connor, we have got a cracker of an issue now. Infinity Crusade. This is going to be a hard one, loonies, and I do suggest, Connor, and I might recommend that we might have to, relook at this later on.
Yeah, let's give it the benefit. I don't think I can properly.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's hold off on the score there. But did you want to go through it and discuss it? Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, but we'll we want to give it the benefit of the doubt, basically. Actually, I'll tell you after we talk about it, kind of what I would have given it based on reading it again, like today. But
okay.
Yeah. But we will adjust that, so you can probably tell where we're heading, loonies. So Infinity Crusade, as we mentioned, it was the third of the three, I guess, so far, the Infinity events from Marvel. So this was in 1993. We're well into the 90s here. We have Stephen Platt on art, and he ends up being quite the sought after artist, wasn't he? Like, he ended up only doing a few of the Moon Knights, and a lot of these issues they're pretty expensive if you're trying to backtrack and find your floppies of this. So Platt's.
Yeah, especially this MARC, like 57 to 60, isn't it?
They're the hard ones to get. And 57 actually is quite difficult to get. So, but if you're looking at it as story-wise, it's very, I don't know. Anyway, so we have Marlene, and she starts off, and immediately we're confused here. So Marlene is falling from somewhere, and she's saved by Donna Kraft, who I think she's part of the... I don't know where she is from. She's an old school rival. She's connected to Seth Phalkon somehow, I think. So there might be a few errors here, loonies. So anyone that are massive fans of Infinity Crusade, loonies, please write in. Speak up, please.
Speak up.
Help us understand.
Be our shining.
Oh gosh, I mean the art's pretty cool, very 90s art. Look, it's actually, it's not my cup of tea. I mean, like they say it's kind of, they say that Platt was kind of like Todd McFarlane and all that. I can see where they're coming from, but I reckon no. I reckon Todd McFarlane was way better.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like most good art.
Dirty is the good word. Like, yeah, it does.
Yeah, I just look at these pages and it's just so like uncleaned up. Like faces are poorly rendered. There's so many like poor line work, and then Moon Knight on this like first double page spread. Like that's raw Liefeld bad muscle. What is that? That's like one day's worth of steroids away from being that really famous like Captain America.
That is, and look at his belt buckle. It is massive. It's like.
That's like a satellite dish. It's like
that's exactly right. And my favourite from this double page spread is Sue Storm there in her classic, and I say that with tongue in cheek for sure, loonies. Sue Storm there with her bikini outfit, and she's got the 4 on her like Power Girl or something. So she's got the boob window, but in the shape of a 4. Multiple man, yeah. Oh, it's got cool. Wonder Man as well. I do like Wonder Man myself. But yeah, the art is something very much of the time. And so this splash page, as Connor was saying, shows the army that the goddess is putting together. So you got the likes of Thor, Multiple Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Archangel. There's a lot of people there. And then we also have, we've got more stuff here on, I think it's a Bloodline.
Yeah, that's the person.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So he's with this other person, Agony, which they don't seem to be good friends with. Agony was the one that actually... She is. With Basilisk. So she's the one that crashes into the party for the Knights Templar. But who knows what happens between then and 57. So she's now kind of hostage, or she's now captive by Frenchie. And Frenchie then turns into his Henri Remont, the legendary Henri Lamont, and he's some sort of buccaneer or something. And they crash land, and she reckons that he dies in the crash, but they crash land somewhere. And then we jump to this other thing where Seth Phalkon is trying to regenerate or rejuvenate, and Agony says, look, just take my life force, because why not? I don't truly understand, but why not just take my life force? And he says, no worries, consider yourself purged, and he sucks the life out of her, and he turns out to be the big bad, but again, very much overworked, I think, line work here from Platt. You get Seth here, right in the middle, and there's a demon, a winged demon, wanting to give his own life force to Seth, in a very provocative pose there. It's really ridiculous. And then so Seth, they go through the last gate to Hellhole, and oh boy, that's going to be fun. So off they go. We go back to the army. Led by the High Priestess Moondragon. And did you get this, Connor? What is happening here with Spidey and Moon Knight? Spidey...
So, yeah, so it seems the goddess has control over all these people, basically, making her his army. And she's pointing out Moon Knight as the black sheep, saying, are you truly worthy of the goddess? And she's like, all right, go beat the shit out of someone.
Right.
And he's like, I'm going to take multiple men with me. And that's why there's like some line about, seeing Spidey side of the story.
Right, and there's a very much, if anything, out of all of this art in the page, the thing that was most appealing to me, only because it is so much a copy of Todd McFarlane, was that there's this one of Spider-Man swinging away. And actually, that to me, that's a really decent, drawing of Spider-Man. But that's probably the only thing I think out of this whole issue. But it's because it's so much like Todd McFarlane, and I don't want to harp on Stephen Platt because he's a fantastic artist in his own right? But just taste-wise, it's a little different. So anyway, so Moon Knight, as you're saying, Moon Knight and the Multiple Men, two of my faves, take on Spidey. which is not good because I like Spidey as well. And what happens at the end, Connor? Does Moon Knight get?
So yeah, this is where it gets really confusing. So there's a bit there, like Lower Manhattan with a demon, and then
what the hell is happening here?
The goddess seems to. Just reading over this again. Yeah,
you got these other characters which they can shoot quills. There's that guy that looks kind of spiky, and then there's Manx, I think, which is that kind of wolf-like Wolverine person. Shard is the white spiky person, and Vortex is the guy, the white-skinned, blonde-haired guy. It looks like, or Dementia. I don't know. These are very forgettable. Yeah, exactly. I think whoever wrote this had dementia. I don't know. This is very confusing stuff.
And then he gets sent to so he seems to be talking to Goddess, who's like, do you want to be redeemed and become part of the thing? Which he does because he's both brainwashed and he wants to be good. And there's something about being hell-bent prime with all his personalities returning.
Yeah, it's really... yeah, but actually that was pretty fun, the last bit, the hell-bent prime. I did like seeing... you got the other versions of it seems like Moon Knight there, so there's a bit of Moonshade happening there, and what looks like I don't know if it's right. There's Jake Lockley, but as a demon, Stephen Grant.
Grant. That's cool. Like that would have been the first we saw.
Which I mean, because as we mentioned before previously, Mark Spector, Moon Knight, they actively sought not to introduce any of the identities. So yeah, that was 57. That was 57 of Mark Spector Moon Knight. As I said, let's probably revisit this kind of when we have a bit more. I'd like to actually read Infinity Crusade to maybe get an understanding of what the hell is going on. But yeah, what were your in summary, I guess, what were your thoughts on this?
I think the art makes it pretty unenjoyable, and then it's just so confusing, just so poorly paced, so like just like it's like a 1.5, 2 out of 5 present art rating. Like I'm actually pretty interested. Like I know when we finally get around to reviewing this chronologically, as we will, who knows how long from now. But like I'm interested in the Bloodlines point. You know, I know it'll be ridiculous. I know it'll be 90s, but I'm totally there for the ride.
Yeah,
when without the context, this is
true. But I think you're rightly so, though. What you mentioned. Okay, number one, as you say, without the context, it is a mess. It is very hard to understand. So there's a lot of assumed knowledge that you need when you read it. But I don't think that will justify the fact that, as you say, it's an effort to actually look at this, you know, because the artwork, it makes it so hard to... Yeah, I found myself... You really had to kind of focus on looking at it because it was... I don't know, it was very distracting and it was very difficult art to look at. But also as well, it's all over the place. There's not just like 2 storylines in here. There are like 3 or 4, and they bounce around, and it's just... Yeah, and when you got so many plots within an issue, you lose the momentum and the flow of the issue, and this was exactly, I think, what happened here. Let alone having to understand what happens in this main event of Marvel, which is the Infinity Crusade. You've got to navigate through that, but you also have to know about this the Hellbent Prime, Seth Phalkon. You have to know about the Knights Templar and what's happening to Frenchie. There are all these other, third tier characters that, supporting characters that you kind of really have to get a grasp of. So yeah, I would give it a 2. Really not. If 3 was readable, then 2, is what you make of that. It was a real effort to read through. I'm not rushing to go back and reread this, but maybe after reading Infinity Crusade and all that, it might allow me to, to see this with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I wonder how much he actually appears in those pages, especially Infinity, Crusade. Because, you know, he's in the tie-ins, but does he actually make an appearance in those big issues selling the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I reckon it'll be more still cosmic. I think because, again, I think the big players, Thanos, Warlock, Professor X has a big thing, and Moondragon apparently is big in it. But yeah, I don't know who else would be. I guess the Avengers would be like the main players there, but I don't think. I'm not sure. I'm assuming Moon Knight. Yeah, but I'm assuming Moon Knight will have little to do with it. And look, I think also as well, kind of, if 57 was primarily Infinity Crusade, it might actually work better. It's just with all that other stuff, like with Frenchie and all that, it just got really off-putting, and I just got less and less interested as I went through. I don't know about you, but anyway, that's just the honest reaction to this issue. So I guess between Connor and myself, we're looking at an average of about 1.75. So make of that what you will, loonies. But that was issue 57, and as Connor said, we'll go back to it when we do the chronological thing. But as for our Infinity War special, those were the issues. So so the only thing left now, Connor, is actually the movie come next week, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot wait. I've kind of like, you know, we had those crazy first trailers. I've kind of dulled myself now, so I'll be like explosive on it.
Exactly. I'm sure there are heaps of surprises that none of us know are coming that will be there. So just cannot wait. Right, loonies. Well, I think that pretty much sorts us out for this issue. Looking at... maybe do you want to take us through next phase, Connor?
Next phase. Don't have my thing up. Wait, I just remembered what the prompt sheet. It's the next issue of the main series. It's issue 194. The start of Becky Cloonan covers. Type Templeton returns to Moon Knight. Oh, as we learned, it's a one-shot. The true origin of Mark Spector. We got preview pages up on the group page. So
just as an aside, Connor, you mentioned Ty Templeton was in like the Mark Spector 42. Do you know which ones that he did, like the pages that he did in there? I'd be keen to know. You know where all the multiple?
Oh yeah, there was no breakdown.
But you didn't recognise his. You didn't recognise his.
Seems. Yeah. Not really. He has very definitive styles. I know him best from the Batman Adventures, which he has a very nice, clean style. But yeah, cool. Because this changes just about every time.
Nah, fair enough. And it was in the 90s as well. He's probably, honed his craft a lot since then as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if it's even the...
You reckon it's
actually, could it be?
Moon Ghost?
No, actually, that's...
Sorry?
You
reckon it's page 10? The one with Moonfang? That's my...
Maybe. Yeah, I just realised on the page with big old Dino
Knight.
My favourite Dino Knight. There's actually a by Fry.
Oh, yeah.
So on the bottom there.
Fry.
It was done by James Fry and...
That's true. So that's not him.
So if it goes in chronological order, then it would be the...
I wonder if it's Moon Man and Moon Boy. That bit. Could be.
I think it is actually.
I mean, that's a very distinct art compared to... I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't know Ty Templeton's style, but that could be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be good to... Like I said, I'm veering away from the previews of 194, so I don't want to have a look at what he looks like, his art. But, that should be pretty cool. Ah, nice one. And also, sorry, Connor, in 194 as well, we'll have special guests. We'll have Loonies with us. So our man on the streets, Tommy Cavill, will be returning to join us with a discussion on this, as well as the power of Chad. Chad Jernigan will be joining us as well. Another great Looney that we had on a show a couple of episodes ago. So it'd be good to have the boys on there. That'll be pretty cool. As for Spectacle, we've got...
Spectacle will be out.
We'll be out and about here. So if you want to get your ITK fix, not only is it in this episode, but recently recorded a review for the Inner Demons fellas at Ghost Rider Podcast. They were reviewing MARC SPECTOR Moon Knight 25, which was a crossover with Ghost Rider, as well as doing their final Damnation tie-in, which is the one-shot of Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. So that was a lot of fun, and I threw my hat in the ring there for a bit of a few comments about the issues, and you should be able to listen to that come this Monday or Tuesday, so keep your eye out for that. Inner Demons, a Ghost Rider podcast. Again, one of the podcasts contributing to the Damnation crossover event that we're all doing with Sons of the Dragon, Immortal Iron Fist podcast, as well as Defenders TV podcast. Speaking of the Sons of the Dragon, they've also got an upcoming episode for the Damnation tie-in, which will be Iron Fist 80, as we mentioned. Connor will be there. Iron Fist Connor will be there, and Rebecca. And I'll be popping over there to let them know what I think of Iron Fist 80. It's a shame there, Connor, that you can't make it, but I'm glad to hear that Iron Fist 80 is pretty cool. So I can't wait to read that. I haven't read it yet, actually.
Yeah,
gotta squeeze that in. You cram that in. So So that's about it. Loonies. Outro. Where can they find us, Connor?
Where can they find us? Just quickly, we email at moonknightpodcast@gmail.com. We're at Twitter, the ITK Moon Knight. Facebook.com/ITK Moon Knight is our page. The fantastic group with Looney discussion all the time, where you can find Tommy, where you can find Chad, where you can find those preview pages. It's facebook.com/group/ITK Moon Knight. We've got a group chat there as well. Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Our page is podcast.wordpress.com. Everything is there. All our links to the collective, the Damnation crossover, our episodes. Basically, if you just search Into the Night of Moon Knight podcast, you will.
Fantastic. And I just want to add to that again as well. For those of you that do play Marvel Strike Force on the tablet or the phone, and being part of the collective, there is an alliance called The Collective, and that was formed by Adam from I Am Your Target Demographic. Really cool. So if you want to join an alliance with some of the podcasts that you listen to, please jump over there. Just search for The Collective. I believe you have to reach level 20 before you are able to join an alliance. So that was just another little thing there. Great stuff, Connor. Another one in the bag, but we've got a lot of viewing ahead of us.
Hell yeah, so we hope to catch you here as well next week. This episode has been an absolute blast. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed Dino Night.
And having said that, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night.
Jurassic period.
See you later.
Good night, everyone.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.